We've reached the weekend at Blackstone Each Yun as we say happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome back to the KB Financial Group Star Championship. Just another fantastic day. The forecast, we can just rip that up for the rest of the weekend. I'm convinced we're going to see sunny skies all the way through. 33 degrees today. The humidity is 55%. The wind right now, it's fluctuating between 0.7 meters per second and 1.5 meters per second, mostly out of the south. Essentially what that means, not much of a factor whatsoever. We started with 108 players. We have cut the field down to 64 with 3 past champions in the field. That means 61 people have a chance to win for the very first time, and there could be several first-time winners. We might see someone win this major for the first time despite seemingly winning just about everything else. And despite the first putt that we see go awry, you will learn very quickly that the course today is playing kinder than it was on Thursday and Friday. ENG Hyun, it is a tap-in par. She's out with a 35, 1 under, and in a tie for third position is her score at the turn. But for the most part, we're seeing a fair amount of low scores, looking from first to really 20th. There's only 3 players that haven't been able to get under par just yet. Jae-Yoon, she has the highest score of anyone in the top 20 at 1 over. That's saying quite a bit. Han-Chin Sun, she is +3, just about to start her back 9. And aside from that, it's been pretty low relative to what we certainly had seen yesterday. There's 1.5 billion won up for grabs this week. Excuse me, 1.2. It is another big money purse with 216 of that set aside for the winner. And really taking her time and not rushing through this pivotal putt whatsoever. It is uphill. It is a slight right to left, and Park Ji-young, who is even for the day, is trying to end the front 9 on a high, get herself within 4 of the lead. That shot away to the inside immediately, though. She might have had the game plan in her mind, repeated it several times mentally, but in the end, she is not able to secure her second birdie of the day. Her only birdie so far today came at the 3rd hole. So that is a 36 at the turn. We'll go to 11. Hong Jung-min, 102 meters out. She is also +3. It's a pretty popular score right now. 7 players tied at that score. Oh, brilliant approach. Just a few centimeters shy. Soft green. Great amount of loft on it, and that will be the type of putt she would dream about. It is that close to the pin. Bang Min-ji, she finished the day yesterday 1 back of the leader. She is 2 under on her final hole, sharing that lead with Lee So-young. It's a 6-iron from the fairway at 9, 141 meters. The pin in that back left cutout just as the green widens. Goes all the way to the back of it. All 42 yards of available real estate. And now to 10. Chun-woo Ri for birdie. She was having just a scintillating start to her round. 4 birdies through 7, including 3 in a row to start the round. Consecutive bogeys 8 and 9, and she starts the West course with a par. Back to 9, also playing the approach. Yoon-ji 139. She's even today as well. She'll be joining Bang Min-ji up on the fringe. Lands on the green and just takes off. It is undoubtedly much more difficult with a mid-iron like that. Usually about a 6 from this range to get the loft, and knowing you got to shape it a little bit too to stay left. Sacrifice some spin. So you want to be shallow, but as you can see, those 2 menacing sand traps directly before the green. It's 134 for Iso Young. Birdied the first hole, pars ever since. She's going with 8, so she's definitely going a little bit shallow. Just has to make sure she has enough to get up and over. She narrowly misses the sand, but she is in the thick rough, and that'll be a very curious next shot, knowing how much of a slope there is right away. Great to see the patrons in much bigger numbers, as you'd expect for the weekend. More of an opportunity to head on out to the course and enjoy the sights and sounds. It's the 5th birdie of the day now, as Hong Jung-min is 3 under combined. It was a 79 that she shot yesterday. She felt well and truly out of it. Down at +5, but that is why they call this moving day. You can move up, you can move down, and right now Hong Jung-min is doing the former. The first 5 holes, excuse me, of the back 9 for Park Ji-young were all pars. The first 2 days of this event, really she's only had 1 birdie on the back 9. That was Friday at 17, that final par 4, but she has been driving very, very well. Today especially. And that's something that she needed to improve upon after missing exactly 14 greens through her first 2 days. Back to 9. So needs to kiss this off the fringe. As she had done at the par 3 when she had her double bogey in round 1, she doesn't have clean contact. And really, that doesn't take the slope out of it whatsoever, so she needs to be inch perfect precise with the second to try and keep herself close to a bogey. Otherwise, it's be Peng Min-ji's leaderboard. She struggled with driver as well. Tied for 29th position, only 69% when you round up. Goes right on through. Might have even been able to roll out of that sand into the rough. She's just a little bit late to catch up with her hands. Rolls over it a little bit, that closes the face of the driver and adds to that right to left movement. Chun In-ji now, the winner from 2015. How far she might drop down this leaderboard, she'll be one of the highest and most followed players on tour. It's a treat for so many who usually just have to settle for watching her on TV, watching her on the internet. 10th ranked golfer in the world, 3 birdies on the day. Down on a tie for 22nd. Now this is a massive chip. This is much better, mind you. So she'll tap that in for a bogey. Drop her back down to even, and once again, she and Peng Min-ji trade places on the leaderboard. They've been doing a lot of that since Thursday. First bogey of the day, and it is an even 36 at the midway mark of her round. Next will be 10, Shihan Sol. 1.78 putts per hole. Long way still to go. It starts uphill and then will drop. slightly off on both her weight and her line. It was a 75 for her yesterday, 72 in round one. She is currently 1 under. For the day, that is. ENG is next. One of the NH Investment and Securities sponsored athletes. Gives us a pretty good preview of what Untitled will face, how quickly it picks up the speed. A little left to right as well, but that really kicks in at the end. Looks to be about 2.5 meters between she and a par. Mine has got the better and the best. Only 3 players inside of the top 15, excuse me, today have found birdie. Kim Soo-ji bogey, Kim Min-ju bogey, Chanu Ri, Kim Jung-min, and of course Lee So-young. This looks like a little bit more delicate of a touch, and that will work out well. Should be all but a certainty that she'll have her par and the lead when she arrives at the 10th tee. It's a good drive to start 11, 112 meters to go. Johnny G just beyond the fringe and will mostly stay put, and then the slope kicks in. Some people would prefer that. It gives them the option for the wedge if they would rather use that to get up. Major champion earlier this season on the LPGA Tour. Something exciting is happening on the green. It's only 98 meters. Chanu-Ri is clear to play. 70% the green's in regulation, her total. It's a pretty good divot just before pin high. Stops it in a good spot. Downhill putt for birdie as she tries to get back to that column. She hasn't seen one since 7. Now trying to avoid dropping down one more spot. Start of the front 9 with a bogey, and she avoids finishing with 1 as well. Her 7th par. And is out with the 36 within 4 of her group mate. We'll start this slightly to the outside. Should be business as usual. Tiny tap and the outright leader of 34 through 9 holes. Birdies at 2, 4, and 5. A bogey at 7. I have a feeling that we'll probably see both she and Lee So-young paired up again tomorrow. They've been dialed in this week, excuse me. quite enough for Bak Jiang to get up the slope, but avoids rolling back towards the front of the green. She'll take that.
멈춰주세요. 플레이하겠습니다. 멈추세요.
Well, her feet might be in the sand, but the ball rolled out indeed. Digs in, tries to keep her traction. Gets up about pin high. It's similar to where Chihan Sol started her putt when she came through. And speaking of, here she is at the tee at 11. Slight fade towards the right side will roll the furthest of the group. Par here yesterday. Another player who struggled mightily through the first 2 rounds on the back nine. 5 bogeys to just 2 birds. Depending on the pace of play in front of them, it's about 3 hours from here to the finish line. It was a 40-minute wait for Bang Min-ji yesterday at the 10th tee. A little bit of speed, a little bit of range out of that backswing. Trying to really focus on her control, her accuracy. I think she might be bordering on the rough on the other side of that crest. But if it's there, it won't be all that buried. Pars in both round 1 and 2 for Jung Yoon Ji. There might be the length of 3 drivers. You were to flip them over on each other. That's how narrow it is, that tight little passage beside the fairway. 100% is a pretty good mark to have. And that is what Hung Min Ji has been playing up until now. Pops up off the rake. She settles into the sand. Should be a mostly wide open fairway. If we can spot anything from the swing, looks the same as it typically is. Just perhaps a little bit early. Yeah, that's big flex. Her hands are over the ball by the time her driver catches up with her. Good to get the water. Good to get the umbrellas out. It is a hot one out there in Icheon. It's 9.1 meters for Lee Ji-hyun. tricky final action just before the hole. Takes her to the inside. Slightly under hit from the front of the green. Janet started walking up to catch the ball by the time it was halfway through its roll. Difference feeling as Jenna Marie thought it was there. And that club in the air ready to celebrate another birdie, but on the doorstep and has other plans. G out of the sand on 10. Has par written all over it. Downward slide, unfortunately, continues for January.
멈춰주세요.
G out of the rough, 129 meters. Really needs to power through this. She'll stay put in the middle section of the green and also will have a long way back over.
플레이하겠습니다. 멈춰주세요. 멈춰주세요. 멈춰주세요.
She does avoid the rough, but you can see just how drastic that angle is. You need to really hunch over to get on top of it. Despite a little bit of an unorthodox setup, she ends up being the closest to the pin. So looks pretty confident. That would be why. Gets a good soft landing. Stays pretty close. Nice drive to start it off.
플레이하겠습니다. 멈추세요.
I'll see your nice drive, and I'll one-up you with a good one of my own. Well, there is a bit of comfort for So Young and Pungninji atop that leaderboard. Looks like a trio of pars for a featured group on the 10th hole. Yimhee Jung, Park Chae-yoon, Shan Uri amongst those on page 2 of the leaderboard here on this sunny Saturday afternoon at the Blackstone Icheon exclusive golf club. We'll take our first break of the day and be back in a flash here at the KB Financial Group Star Championship. first of the long putts at 10. As I said, this seems like 3 distinct pars out of this group. But he was quite able to attack the flag. She gave herself a really good chance. Obviously, it was further out than her last approach. That was probably from that distance. Lips out. Avoids picking up what would have been her 6th birdie of the day. She's been playing so much better golf today. It's a valiant try from Bung Min Ji, but it is just short. None of the mid-range. Mid-range might be underselling it a little bit. None of these putts seemingly have any intentions of producing birdies. Jihan Sol, the most recent par. 7 to play and 2 over for the tournament. Close as well for he's so young, but we are indeed 0 for 3. Starts the back 9 with the par. ENG picking up where she left off at the last. The approach rolls through the fringe, but then it comes right on back and uses it like a bumper. Gets just on, but no further. ENG after a couple of pars, hoping to carry that here and break the bogey stretch that she has found at number 11. 334 meters. This is the shortest par 4 on course when it's been adjusted for the weekend.
Okay, good shot.
One slightly more to the right, perhaps. The tiniest of modifications to prevent another slight hook.
나오지 마세요. 선생님 오셨어요.
The longest drive of the trio. And everybody is away and racing on down. Young sees that breakaway to the inside. By no means a guaranteed par either. So Jung taking her time to line up this par. As it stands before she swings through, she's trailing by 6 and hoping to stay there. In a tie for a top 10 position at the moment. A little left to right, but she overestimated it. It's a very tight line, but she is able to get up onto the green.
자, 이제 멈춰주세요. 뒤에 멈춰주세요.
That's a nice conversion. It's definitely far enough away that The slightest misalignment would cost her, but she did it well.
움직이지 마세요. 멈춰주세요.
It's par as well for GHN 3. Everybody does well to preserve where they started. This is a shot map of everybody that has come through 11 today from the approaches. From the tee shots, excuse me, to set the approaches up. 225 meters is the long drive. It's definitely one of the easiest fairways to hit. 86% of the people who played 11 today have found it. Only 6 birdies, and based on that trend, nothing really to suggest consistent pattern. It's all about execution from this point. Bounces in the rough just before the green, and that takes any hope of carrying a bit more of that momentum forward. That is the opposite end of the luck spectrum, but getting a very good look at how steep the grade is if you're short. It's definitely causing some adjustments to be had for everyone. It's playing 27 meters longer than it was in rounds 1 and 2. That is the ticket. You just hope for a bit of backspin. It's going to start. Now the question is, how much closer will she get? I don't think much. I don't even know which you'd prefer to have, to be honest, trying to navigate that downhill slope, or having a bit more confidence to try and hit long. That's a nice little travel inside of 6 feet away. Well, it's beneath the crest, but Pak Jiang has a drive right down the middle. Unfortunately, that one borders on a slice as it goes up the hill into the rough. Just enough. A long time coming for Chun In-ji. That is just her second birdie of the day and her first since the second hole, and she is milking and enjoying the moment as she should. It's an unbelievable golf shot. She wasn't ready to believe it until she saw it go down and then couldn't suppress the smile any longer. That's a very good try. It's the danger of a course playing as tough as this one is. You have that one mistake and it's not about losing momentum, but you start to chase
잠시만
the round a
멈춰주세요.
little bit more than trying to master it. Now, Bung Min-ji, look at the route she has to take.
잠시 멈춰주세요.
All at long last, time for Jung Yoon-ji. It's 10 meters out. She's probably going to want to start this about 5 feet to its outside. Looks like she's done just that. Get over, ball. Oh, just runs out of speed. It's complex. Premature celebration. You can tell she's playing with more confidence today than she has all weekend long. She's unsure of this one, and she's not able to get back into the fairway. She was trying to clear that last little patch and get to the end of it. Par for Bung Min-ji. Young from the crater in the fairway. I love this perspective of the green, showing you just how monstrous of a pin placement that is in round 3. You can bet tomorrow it's going to be in the other, essentially, grass bunker on the green. We go over to 15. Park Chae-yoon, this can take her to 2 over, but she burns by that outside edge after a great approach shot. She lets one slip. She'll have to settle for another par. She's been on a good run of it. She hasn't really dropped much at all today, but I think she would have been thinking to herself, that was one she could have had. Birdies 4, 5, and 6 otherwise through 15 holes. The rest have been pars. Sun Sun playing 6-iron on the par 3 13. 75% greens in regulation. Let's take a tour of the par 4 12, shall we? This is the last of 5 par 4s in a row, and it is the longest of these 5. As you can see, pretty significantly downhill right from the start. Not many obstacles to try and avoid with your first shot. The same, though, cannot be said for the second. The approach up to the green, lozenge in shape. Stretch out the one corner of it, make it a little bit taller. As you can see, you want to go over the sand. That is where the risk comes in, and if you can get it in a pretty generous radius on that left side of the green, you'll have the benefit of a bit of a roll closer to the flag. It is 6 yards from the fringe and about halfway deep if you start your line from the base of the green, just as the green begins there on the right side. %, fairways in regulation, 2 of every 3 she's struck. The telemetry can be a bit misleading. This should be okay. A little bit more middle than you think. Might have just climbed up into that rough. Minji, she's driven very well with the exception of a few holes ago when she found the bunker. That is another one right down the middle. Climb up to the top of that little ridge and we'll have a good look down and at the green. If you're confident in your mid-iron and you're striking the ball well, you're approaching the greens well, it's not a bad play to be a little bit more offset to the right. The left gives you less distance, but a much tighter lie. And Lee So-young last to tee off. finally have somebody to go right at that little valley. It will be a downhill putt. I thought it would come down a little bit more than that. Ji Hyun 3, but she stays above the hole. And now to turn our attention back to Chun and Ji to see if she can ride that momentum she picked up with the birdie and make it 2 for 2. Stays just below that final little rise. She's going to need another bit of magic with the putter to convert from that location. The birdie took her back to 7 over. That is a tie for 21st. The likes of Park Bo-mio, Ji Hyun, and Shin Sun also at that mark. Just glancing up and down the leaderboard, see if we can pick out a couple of bigger names, see how they're doing, despite not seeing much of them today. Mata Som, the rookie, she is 1 under for the day at +5. That's tied for 16th. Kim Min-ju, who had a tough day yesterday, is 78. She's on par, no pun intended, on pace to match what she had done in round 1, which is a 71. Yue Ran is 3 under today, playing on 18. She, of course, is leading the LFAZ's point standings. But yes, her 3 under takes her to a +4, just outside of the top 10. I believe the low amateur remains Peng-Shin Shil. 79 in round 1, but a 72 yesterday. She's on for a 74, playing the final hole now. Of course, we lost Chanana at the turn in round 1. And lastly, in terms of the previous champions, it is a +2 in progress for Kim Ae-rim, who is outside of the top 50. Disappointing tournament for her. And disappointing for Park Ji-young to come so close on a putt with a great degree of difficulty and have to settle for a par. To continue moving right. It does at the end. It was on the finest of margins, and a triple bogey at 1, all pars until 13, and finally a birdie for Han Shin Sun. That takes her to +6, and she had to work for that one. More putts continue to fall from basically the fringe. Ji Hyun 3 able to salvage a par after her first 2 shots found the rough. Go to 18, EA1, +1 at, excuse me, +1 for the day through 17, playing on the final hole. Heads right up to the back third, basically pin high. It's a nice approach. Min-ji, it's 132 meters. She is above the hole by 3 and a bit. Great look down at the flag, and she's going to roll down expertly. That is going to be a very makeable birdie. That is the advantage of being on the right side. You get that natural right to left movement for the righties, which everybody is. A little bit different, I'll be honest. That took me some getting used to from watching much and playing North American golf. My best friend plays left-handed, so. It's a little bit further forward and slightly less forgiving, this one for Lee So-young. She's going with 8. It's 130 meters to go. She too also drops into the bowl, but carries too much speed and will roll into the rough. She needs a birdie. She needs some kind of special shot just to give her that spark. And she can play consistent par golf all the way and still be in contention to be one of the favorites for tomorrow, but she's starting to trail Peng a little bit. It's not going to be a simple setup for a par for Chung Yoon-ji. She's going to almost certainly need to chip that. I don't know how to necessarily practice that one in between the rounds. Got to basically start it flat, know it's going to drop down the cliff essentially. That visceral reaction from the supporter gives you just as good of an indication of how that went for Chen Ying-ji than I could have. She came close, but it will be a par. Okay, so we understand that there is a little bit to do for that most recent shot and the next to follow, as is the case for Chung Yoon-ji, who is going to need to be very, very good on the control to avoid dropping out of that tie for third position. Imi Jung shot her out 3 under, getting herself within 6, and more importantly for her tournament, propping herself in a good position, the 2019 champion. We're through the first hour of our coverage, and we're just about to enter into the exciting par 3s for our featured group. 3 coming up the next 4 holes once they finish off at 12. We'll step aside once again, be back shortly for more from the KB Financial Group Star Championship. We knew this would be a challenge for Chung Yun-ji, and at the very end, it gave her that little glimmer of hope as it moves back to the right. This one's still perched up the hill in a tricky situation, so she's not out of the woods yet in terms of avoiding a bogey. And this is a fully uphill chip for Park Ji-young. Playing from the thicker rough. This could trip her up if the focus, the concentration's not fully there. A little bit too much underneath it, so the angle is a bit more forgiving than Chung Yun-ji's, but that is still a lengthy enough remaining distance that I don't know that she's going to feel fully confident standing over that. Park Ji-young playing down. She's putt so well that I wouldn't put this par past her. Last bit of spin kept her close. I thought that was going to continue to roll up. Ji, she has an opening to extend the lead. And she's got it. She is reaching that quiet, confident, killer focus that she so often has when she goes on to run away with tournaments. And she's just about fully in that headspace. I would feel a little bit anxious if I was So Young needing to play with that all the way in and probably do the same tomorrow. I'm sure it's a very imposing presence to play against when she reaches that state. Ji Hyun 3 sees this ball break a little bit early. It's also tapped instead of struck. That's my way of trying to illustrate that she needed a bit more. That's a nice putt. She really had to work for that par 4 in a row, and since her bogey at the first hole, she has had all pars with the exception of that one birdie on number 9. Needs to make her first putt situations a little bit easier on herself. Shin Sun, it is 88%. She's only found 72% of her greens in regulation. That's for the entire season, 39th. That's going to get a good roll back as well. She's putting together a few really, really nice sequences here. It's 3.7 meters remaining for Park Ji-young. Downhill, gets the line right. Has 8 consecutive pars, and to no discredit of her own, it is how well Peng Min-ji is playing at the top of the leaderboard, but that deficit is now 6. Definitely in a battle for a podium position, though. Fine margins here. First grip putt. A little bit of movement and sway on that backswing, but you can see how much that means to her. Just trying to stay close to Bung Min-ji. Watch the reaction. That's about as animated as we ever see her. Will she put herself in a position 5 feet away for another birdie? And Ji-sun has it. It is back-to-back now to move her to +5. And with it, up she goes into a tie for 16th. Six iron for Bung Min-ji. Looking back at her round so far on the par 3s today. She parred the first, number 3. That's the one that Chun Ying-ji had aced in round 1, but she had her one and only bogey at the last par 3. Not particularly close. Should be 2-putt territory there. Also a 6 iron for Chung Ying-ji, averaging 2.7 strokes per par 3, and that's what she's been chasing. Show me the one who has a hole-in-one on a par 3 this tournament. That is the level of confidence that she is playing these short holes. Now Chi-Han Sol should just be a tap-in for her as well to get to +2. Line it just beyond the outside edge, knowing it's going to move. And a well-earned birdie. That looks perilous. Avoids the tallest and thickest grass up on the hill, but it is away from the fairway. Hooked a little bit off the tee. This is also making a move to the left side, more of a direct cut instead of some unwanted movement as she sets herself up for the approach shot well. That's the side of the fairway to be in if you can shape it like that. Chun Ying-ji, birdie and a par, trying to get herself close again. She's done that. Now, this is being a very, very kind green with the way the flag and where the flag is placed today, rather. Setting up for many birdies and with the two really dominant and prominent featured groups still to work through it. It is time for another break. When we come back, we will head to the par 3 and see how group number 21 will fare once they arrive. Quick break and then back to the Blackstone just after this. We head right on back and rejoin the action. Sat 18. There's no shying away from it. It has not been the best of days. She has struggled to set herself up in her approach game, and then the putter just hasn't had enough magic in it to gloss over the cracks. This is 14. Bak Ji-young is 119 meters, trying to shape this one. Stepping back out, she bounces once, twice, and rolls to the back, down onto the hill. Tricky one to judge. Blasting that up and out of the sand. That is a fairly kind line back down. Slight downslope for the woman who started the day with the lead. She's not played the par 3 as well. She's going to have to sort that out for tomorrow. She'll have one more chance to improve upon it at 16. This is 14. Just over 104 meters for Ji-hyun 3, and catches that fat. Takes a whole lot more of a divot. Makes contact well before the ball and sacrifices a grade in regulation as a result. It's a nice finish to the round despite how it started. 3 straight bogeys, another at 12, but 3 birdies. And I don't know that anyone is going to take the low amateur from her. As a matter of fact, she is the only amateur to have qualified, made the cut for the weekend. She could bottom out and still finishes the low score. She's +8. That's still inside the top 25. Don't look now, but that is 2 birdies in the last 3 holes for Chun In-ji, up to a share of a top 20 position with that make. 3 holes to play for the world number 10, and from the world number 10 to the world number 19. Bang Min-ji, I mean, if she makes this, I'm almost ready to crown her the champion. But the odds are stacked against her. Let's see how she fares. Starts back well. She built her cushion up with the birdie at the last, and Lee So-young, having found the sand, I mean, she's not going to take a bite out of the 2-stroke lead, so Bang Min-ji can just have the short par and move on from there. You have to look very, very intensely to find an area that isn't quite up to standard with the rest of her game, and she hasn't been great on par 3s, Bang Min-ji. Speaking of not great, that is how I would describe this lie. There's no doubt she needs better contact here, but also has to pitch this up. Starts it left. The fringe will help slow it down. She'll pick up the speed there. Haven't seen many go that shallow, but with the consecutive shots out of the rough, she didn't have many other options. She was trying to salvage something, but this 13th again, it's becoming her nemesis. She's the only player now in the top 15 to be over par today. And you think about the week, just something about this hole. Double bogey in round 1, bogey yesterday, and a bogey again here today. 1 hole further forward, Bak Ji-young up out of the rough. She's been able to minimize some of the fallout on these longer putts. Chung this whole time has been patiently waiting, looking to get back to even. So be left to right. Noticeably right, left to right, excuse me, at that. Oh, that's a brilliant putt. Back up and under par for the first time today after bogeying the first. She is now in sole possession of third at even. Now Lee Ji-hyun 3, who is one over, needs to convert on this and nearly did. Her misses to the inside, and that will drop her down into a four-way tie for fourth. Hong Jung-min, Chi Han-sol, and Park Ji-young. Somebody from off the back of this 18th green. Great weight. Does it have the line? Yes. Shades of Chi Han-sol on Thursday. An eagle to end the day. She is 2 under as the dust settles, and it's unfortunately not been her weekend. We haven't seen nearly as much of her as you would expect to in a major, but an eagle, especially here, is very, very special, and she deserves every bit of that praise. Kim So-yi, had an eagle today at the par 4 second. Other than that, though, it's the only other 2 under score on a singular hole that we've seen today. Park Jae-yoon had one yesterday, as did Park Dan-yu. Son Ye-bin, who missed the cut, had 3. This is 60 in the final par 3 of the round. That was very, very close to being a nearly impossible situation for Jun In-ji, but she just hangs on. Rejoin Peng Min-ji in a moment, but first the par putt for Park Ji-young on 14. She has another. Every single hole since number 6 she has parred, and not always of the easiest varieties. Good blast to start the second to last par 4 of this round. 326 meters makes it the shortest par 4 on course. For the most part, she's driven well off the tee with driver, 80% in regulation. Looks to be another fantastic drive. Right down the middle. As smooth and silky as you'd like. Ji-hyun 3 remains at even for the day. Uneventful finish to that. Oh, she came close to saving her par. It is a drop. That Brookstone ball moves the opposite way at the end. Lee Jung will settle for an even par round of 36. 3 under on the front 9 and all pars on the back. Good day for her, climbing closer to the top 10, but just feels a little bit too late to make a surge. Ji, can she find a third in a 4-hole span? Good weight, but offline.
살짝 왼쪽도 괜찮아요. 플레이하겠습니다.
Slows up just as it makes its final path towards the flag for Ji. Probably could have used a bit more club there. A little less lob on the wedge. Now Jung Ji playing with some really good confidence right now. That will certainly help. Another splash of aggressive shot making and not sacrificing any of the accuracy. Oh, that backspin saves her. And that might just be her slight opening to finally get another birdie. Ji-hyun 3, another high cut that uses every available meter to her right. She will be close to the rough again. And even if she avoids it, it'll be a tricky one beneath her feet. And the featured group is away on 14. Into the home stretch now. of this third round. Excuse me, that was the second to last group, of course. On 15, this is 14. It is Peng Minji for birdie. It's the second hole where she's left herself a very lengthy putt for birdie. The weight was perfect. We'll take 2 taps of that putter. Now what that does allow is for Lee So-young to find her birdie after a great approach shot and narrow the deficit to just 1. She lets that go. The door was wide open, and that last little twitch away from the hole prevents her birdie. And usually when she's in that laser focused state, you might get a fist pump out of her, but when she's frustrated, you'll get the sarcastic smile. That's how she expresses a little bit of frustration. She needs to give herself a little bit more breathing room to the right to get this started. She's done that, and it is now back-to-back birdies, 2 under, and she moves level with her partner. He's so young. Those 3 remain chasing Minji. They could very well be in the same group tomorrow, the way they're playing right now. But Jaeun stays fully straight, no deviations from its path. She finishes the day birdie, bogey, par, in with a 36 after going out with a 33, 3 birdies in a row. Exit the course in a tie for 7th. Now 15. Lee Ji-hyun did avoid the rough. Plenty of yardage still to make up, and she catches that cleanly with the wood. Nearly identical position. Park Ji-young with the hybrid. So advancing uneventfully through that rolling fairway. Let's go through 15. 523 meters. That makes it the longest hole on course, over half a kilometer long. And while it is wide open spaces that offer pretty good view, there's not much to challenge the tee shot. Having said that, things get a little bit more tricky with the largest pond in the entire 72-hole facility, 54-hole facility, excuse me, here at Blackstone. The left side of the fairway sort of sweeps back down to the right. Avoid those hills by playing more so to the right with the tee shot, and then you have no choice but to go over the water with your second. 2 bunkers lining the left side of the fairway, 1 on the right just as the pond opens up, and then the third, you got to test yourself with the water again. Looking at the flag today, it is just 9 yards from the back of the green and 10 yards from the fringe. Fresh off of her second straight birdie, Yoon-ji has the honor. She's bogeyed here each day she has played it. It's the last thing she wants to see or think about at the moment. What is fascinating is all weekend long, despite keeping herself very much in contention, she had not put together 2 birdies in a row. In fact, in round 1 on Thursday, she had bogeyed each of the par 5s on the back 9. ENG, despite being a bit of a master of the par 5 usually, has gone par and par Thursday and Friday. Starts off well though. Par in round 1, birdie yesterday. So Young is away. She's unsure. That's about where Lee Ji-hyun 3 and Park Ji-young had been. Should be okay.
화이팅! 이소영 화이팅!
She is taking the most difficult path she possibly could. Excuse me, this back 9. Has not been smooth sailing for Ji-hyun 3. To try and solve the water is Park Ji-young. She does get up, but she's not going to stay. ENG from in between the KB zone and the rough at 17. Lands with a big thud. Rolls maybe 3 feet from where she landed.
플레이했습니다. 이동 다 멈춰주세요.
She says, I see your approach, let me go one better. It's a nice reintroduction to the round. She's been mostly quiet. Chung Yoon-ji, still 330 meters to go. Both feet in the rough, but that hybrid, the ball is in the fairway. It's one where your guess is as good as mine with The terrain making it difficult to get an immediate understanding of what will be next. Will just squeak through the rough. So I'm sure she had bated breath for a moment, but that'll be okay. So Young also makes a beeline diagonally into the rough. Ji-hyun 3, once again making an unplanned detour to the sand trap. It's okay if it can stop up in time. A little bit more of a roll. We'll have to work to avoid a bogey. Young looking for a birdie. Nearly grazes the edge of the hole, but rolls beyond it. So, and sticking and fitting with what we have seen from her. Par should not surprise anybody. Ji-hyun 3 needs to be right on the money. 3.7 meters. A downhill putt to save par. Goes over the ball marker, and honestly, that was probably her last chance to save the par if she got a little bit of a deflection. Will be a bogey. G for birdie. It's been a very good back nine, but she has not putt all that well. Only 19% one putts. That rate will have another slight decline. par that she would have expected to have had more on. Watch that extra stroke slip away. 15 with So-Yeon Jung for birdie. Slightly uphill, but she has the line just right. Only her second of the day, her first since hole number 2. Moves her to 3 over. Bogey is confirmed for Ji-hyun 3, also down to 3 over she goes. Not much today when you approach like that. Speaking of short finishes, Park Ji-young. Unsurprisingly, there is the par. Still even heading to the 16th tee. ENG, 190 meters to go. It's almost like it catches an updraft on its way over the water. Where is it is the question. Likely in the sand. Wasn't enough of a gasp for that to lean towards a splash. She also playing her approach, though she has iron and she is in the rough. Look at that go, slowing right up. Well, for someone who would not put back-to-back birdies together all tournament long, she's about to break the 15th hole bogey run and put up 3 consecutive. It is near perfect. .148 as Lee So-young tries to go up over the trees. She's done that, but she is a long way away. That is going to be one of her most excruciating putts. Mostly blind uphill. She's really going to have to take her time to narrow in on where to start that putt and hit it with all kinds of power. Things are shaking up atop the leaderboard. We're getting closer to more and more groups finishing out. Chi and Sol, Park Ji-young through 15, both at 2 over and a tie for 4th. Lee So-young might just have one more bogey. We know Chung Eun-ji is going to birdie, and Bang Min-ji remains the question mark over on 15. Stepping aside and returning momentarily here to moving day at the KB Financial Group Star Championship. This is the look we were waiting for. When we slow it right down, we can see that in fact it is short of the trees. So it is a penalty for Bang Min-ji. So that is a drastic turn of events. It's 132 meters, has to be close if she wants to only have one drop shot. It's an unfortunate bit of backspin, otherwise she would have been right on the money. Has her work cut out for her as she looks for bogey. If it's two, and if Jung Yoon-ji birdies, all of a sudden, Jung Yoon-ji will be atop the leaderboard for the very first time. We've just passed 4 p.m. local time. So we go to 15. She has the benefit of this being for birdie. Get it up and down and back up again. It's going to have 3 different elevation changes. Get it close, she can keep her shot at par on the table, but that's still rolling. So she might be dropping again as well. She certainly hopes that's not the case. Choi-An seeing her for the first time. Her escape from the sand on 17 is a decent effort. She set the course alight yesterday with a 70. On pace for a 73 today and a share of 15th position. And now the bogey putt for Bang Min-ji. After finding the water with her second, she nearly rescues just the one drop shot. So it is a 7. Down to 2 under. She had not had a single double all weekend long. She's had a couple of bogeys per round, but that is obviously her biggest descent on one hole. See how she can bounce back on the par 3, which is typically not her favorite. Jing Sun. Nice soft landing. She had those back-to-back birdies, 13 and 14, but she did bogey the 16th. He's so young, you can tell it's mostly straight by the fact that she's not worried about where that ball marker is. Be a little left to right, short yardage situation, one she has to have. Just enough. So she stays at 1 under. All the eyes will turn to what should be a very simple putt for birdie. Not only would it move her into a share of the lead, it would take her to 3 under, which is the second best score of the day. Only beat by Yuhei Ren, who quietly put together a 68 today. There is the birdie. 3 now in a row, and we have 2 NH Investment Securities sponsored athletes sharing the lead in the home stretch in round 3. We'll go to 18 next. Hong Jung-min. for a round of 69. Would have been 10 strokes lower than her frustrating day yesterday, but she misses and will be on for another 70 as she had started the tournament. We'll take a look at 16, 145 meters. It is the shortest hole on course. Makes for an interesting walk, but really neither of those bunkers should be a factor whatsoever, especially when you consider that even landing midway through would set up a birdie. It really depends on how aggressive you want to play it. The flag location today, 9 yards off the very front and just 4 yards from the fringe on the right side. Yuhei Ren, her birdie here was her first of 3 in a row. One of just 5 players to have 3 consecutive birdies today. Park Jae-yoon had a birdie, as did Park Bo-mi and Pang Shin-shil. I think it's 7 in total, if my quick math serves. And she has been dominant on the par 3s, 4 under. If not for the par 5s, well, she would have a pretty firm grasp of the lead. Goes right at the flag again, gets it to stop in a comfortable spot. She has no problem playing aggressive. She has yet to birdie this particular par 3, though, pars in each of the first 2 days. So Young still looking for her first birdie since the very first hole. She's parred 16 and 17. The first 4 times she's gone through. It's 18 that's really had her number. She's going with an 8-iron. 67% greens in regulation. She just needs to put the bad memories of 13 behind her. It'll work out. Lands about 4 meters deeper than Chung Yoon-ji, but only about 4 feet past as it comes to rest. Pang Min-ji will tee off next in a moment, but first we finalize the round from Jung-min. As mentioned, it is another round of 70. Up into a tie for 6th as she exits the course. Up 4 spots from where she had started the day. And now after her double bogey, she's not happy with it. She probably should be. I think she believed she had underhit it, but that's not a bad spot. Slight uphill putt for birdie. And now we're in for a shootout on the way in between she and Chung Yoon-ji. Joyan, just short, just inside. So she will exit the course today. Excuse me, exit the 17th and get ready for 18. Still inside of the top 15. Sun is trying to get there. Sliced taps right on line. Third bird in the last 5 holes. 5 over and in a good spot heading to the last. Next up is the 3rd shot. Only 165 meters Chen In-ji is trying to reach. She's going to do more than that. Brilliant shot. Remember that this weekend, the final hole has been reduced from 511 meters to 465, which encourages some birdies, makes them a whole lot more likely. This is the first time really we've dropped the leaderboard down to just 5 names. Those are the athletes currently within a 4-stroke window to and from the top of the leaderboard. This is the 4th major of the season, the 17th playing of the KB Financial Group Star Championship. He's so young, one of the favorites in the twilight of this moving day Saturday. Looking to pick up a birdie and really avenge some of these par 3 struggles. She comes awfully close and must be thinking, what more do I have to do on these short holes? She will settle for par, keeps herself at 1 under. That's close, but a disbelief. Jiang's approach on 17 will roll through the rough. Oh! Off the flag and just stays out. How dramatic of a shot that was. That would have taken her right to even. And thank goodness the rough took some of that speed off. Oh, that is the most exhilarating and frustrating moment, saying I did everything I possibly could. There was no way to slow it up more. And just did not drop. That would have been right up there for shot of the day. Still is one of them. So we go back to 16, Peng Minji. She could take the lead right back, although it might be short-lived. Right to left, but outside. It is a nice par, but suddenly her commanding grip is nearly as commanding, and depending on how this goes, she might have been trailing. The birdie streak had to come to an end at some point. Is now at 16 and time to reset and regroup in preparation for the stretch. Final 2 holes. Pak Jiang, that's one way to snap seemingly the inescapable sequence of pars. One more look at the near eagle. Kicks once from right to left, kicks again back the other way, hits the flag, but carries too much speed and prevents it from falling. On 18 now as we wait for the featured group to make the short walk over to the 17th blocks. Ji with a great third shot to set up this opportunity for birdie on the par 5. Currently in a tie for 20th. She could move into a tie for 15th and still have a chance to push for a top 5 finish tomorrow. This would go a long way. Just hangs up on the outside. So she finishes with a 73 in round 3 and with a 35, a disappointing front 9, bogeys 1, 4, and 6, and she drops 10 spots by virtue of those around her really making pushes. Yu Na had a good round, a 69 for her, having teed off on number 10. Kim Soo-ji also in that tie for 20th. Was it 3 under? Flashback to the first. That is where the birdie came. I think that had a little bit of extra redemption for her, considering where she had finished the day yesterday with a bogey. But since that first hole, she has not seen a single birdie. It has been a quiet third round as we take a tour of number 17 here at Blackstone. 355 meters, this par 4. It is a dogleg right. Don't want to go too crazy to the left with that first bunker right there. Then it's a slightly elevated second shot. And to be mindful on that stretch down, and then the fairway narrows just before the green in between two sand traps. And that one on the left is definitely in play. It has a pretty steep roll back to the front, so it's okay to be a little bit stronger on that approach shot. If you can get about 7 or 8 meters onto the green, that slope will take you back towards the front. The pin today 7 yards off the front, 5 yards from the left. Well, the first tee shot to the left side of the KB zone from Chung Yoon-ji.
이동 잠시 멈춰주세요.
She's driving well. It's the approach shots that have let her down a little bit today. She goes well clear. She had been taking a little bit off the drive each time, and she probably feels like there's not much to lose with a wider fairway. She can reach for a little bit more. Again, audibly frustrated. That one's heading right. Look out for that fescue. Rescues her a little bit. The volunteer is going to go over and try and plant a flag to make it easier to find. I haven't really seen much of this, especially a slice. That is very, very rare for Peng Min-ji. Right by those brown leaves. These tournaments are 72 holes for a reason. It's not supposed to be easy, especially not at a major. And unannounced to most of us, the LFASI's points leader, Yuhei Ren, who is also the season-long points leader, has crept up the leaderboard, and you know she will be pushing for a good result tomorrow. Pak Ji-young also in contention here. Peng Min-ji, she's 4th in that table. And those are the primary protagonists in that race for the top 8. Also in the race for the championship here.
멈춰주세요. 플레이하겠습니다.
Well, our first co-leader narrowly avoided the rough. Plays from the left side. There's that previously highlighted downslope. It is a bit deeper than she would have wanted to be. That takes birdie likely out of the cards. Green as well has a tendency to go left to right, so being on that side isn't the worst case scenario. Well, she's found the ball. Now it's a matter of how does she try and play out of this? And when you can't see it, that is never a good sign. Let's see if we can listen in. All she wants to do is get it back to the fairway. So no penalty, but again, overcomplicating the matter, and she might have cut that top hand a little bit on some kind of a prickly plant over there. One last look at the yardage for Jihan Sol here on the par 5, and she's waving her caddy back over, saying, can you stand in the fairway? I will aim the rangefinder at you, see what I'm working with. She's just trying to lay up here. Cannot do justice how difficult this is. Basically needing to widen the swing, come at it a lot more flush than normal. Become too steep down at the ball here in this lie. Bad things can happen, especially if you're not one of the best players on tour like she is. The average golfer would say, I'm just going to take my drop. That's not really an option in a major championship. Well, she was hoping to be on the fairway, not only escaping by about 10 feet, bouncing once on the cart path and finding the rough again. That's where she has to check herself a little bit and say, I don't need to be a hero with the next shot and make matters worse. Let's go back to 17. The approach for Lee So-young, almost the exact middle of the fairway. 104 meters to go, needs to work a little bit more left, I think. Well, does just that and lands centimeters beside the flag. So now it is Peng Min-ji's turn to stumble a little bit and battle to try and get back to her birdie ways. While her group mates are already on the green and we'll have a look for a birdie. 176 meters, the third shot. The remaining distance for Han-Jin Sun. Bounces once, twice, slows up expertly. The gallery loves it, as they should. Min-ji, just a short wedge to get up, wants to be close, needs to be close. It's another one where she takes a pretty good divot, but she will be the furthest away. Already through 3 strokes. Back to 18, another predicament for Jihan Sol. Her third. Goes for the hybrid, trying to blast it out, and she's still stuck in the rough. That's what we were saying. A risk of trying to be too aggressive, play the hero shot. She might have been better served to just punch that into the fairway, cut her losses, and not try and put herself in another tough lie. That'll be 3 straight shots from the rough. Needs to get up and get close to try and prevent a bogey. It's a brilliant view. Looking down through the trees. Down towards the end of that first fairway.
Good shot.
And intentional cut left to right. And that ricochets off the cart path. Heads up to everyone walking down. She nearly got back into the fairway. Would have probably picked up another 40 feet or so, especially if she rolled through that fairway. There would be very little to do on the approach now, though the rough, in terms of yardage, the rough, of course, complicates matters slightly. First of 2 birdie looks for Chung Yoon-ji. Starts right to left, and then it's going to want to come back. Decent weight to set up a par. Out comes the flag, and it is indeed a 4. Still on pace for a round of 69. GM3, who has faded a bit into obscurity in the past few holes. She is also right, also by the golf carts. Bogey, bogey, 14, 15, 2 straight pars before arriving on the 18th. It was a par after her double bogey at 15. This would be one of her biggest flashes of brilliance if she can find this par. Would have had the line, I think, if it had a little bit more on it, so it will be the third hole where she loses ground, her second bogey. And that's 3 dropped shots now in the last 3 holes. And she will be joining Lee So-young unless she has a birdie. To say this is not ideal would be a kind way of putting it. She does have some overhanging branches from that tree immediately to her right. Not too far buried as that rolled through the rough and into the sand. It's not the most difficult line, but knowing that she has to be close from 89 meters to avoid a bogey, stay in sole possession of 5th. She's found the rough again. So she will have that for a par, and she's got some understandably dejected and resigned body language as she makes the lonely walk to join her group mates. So Peng Min-ji is going to exit from a share of the lead. Lee So-young can take her place. White was there. Trade off for the line and narrowly misses. Well, she started the round with the birdie. Depending on how Chung Yoon-ji does, if she finishes it with the birdie, she still might have a share of the lead. But when you think of holes that have had her number, 13 springs to mind, but so is 18. It'll be very, very interesting. Bogey secured. She hasn't birdied the 18th yet this week. That would be as good a time as any. And we'll go to 18 now. That is the final theater in round 3. Still 217 meters to go for Lee Ji-hyun 3. And she is taking, I don't think willingly, but she is taking the Jihan Sol approach. In terms of lies in the rough and how they go, she'll take this one. Brass wedge just needs to gently, delicately, if you will, get underneath it. pacer too onto the green. Be just what the doctor ordered. She's a bit shy of it, and good thing. It was next to no loft on that, and she runs it up, so now she has to have that putt to avoid dropping multiple strokes at the last. Jung isn't trying to and isn't able to reach with her second, despite only being 176 meters. That was the result, which is insane to think from the tee shot. She only had 176 meters for the approach, and if it was the fairway, well, she'd have to wait for this group to clear. Well, she is probably going to keep that head down. She'll look high towards the heavens first, but yes, head down, and disappointed. She was in such a good position heading into 18, and now all of a sudden she finds herself out of the top 10. The final hole. Highlighted earlier, remind you again, it is shorter for the weekend than it was for the first two rounds, only 465 meters. All of a sudden makes it the shortest par 5 on course through that narrow opening through the trees into a very wide fairway, but there are bunkers aplenty. There's 5 that will be mindful for the second shot. Highlight the one that really will test those who go for it in 2. Also have the one grass bunker in the narrow part of the fairway. There's essentially another bunker of the grass variety just after the one on the front right, and with that downslope you most certainly want to be long today. Only 6 yards from the back of this green, and Jung Yoon-ji now the sole leader, the outright leader. I think that's just a 5-wood. Perfect landing zone and goes up comfortably. I think her approach is to play a little bit safe here, knowing that even if she pars in her group mate's birdie, the worst she could do would be a share of the lead. Doesn't want to risk it. Cho Ayan, she is +5. That would have taken her to a tie for 11th. Not quite online, so her 221st shot of the tournament ends her third round. Birdies at 1 and 8, bogeys at 7, 10, and 15. It is a 73, and she drops 8 positions from where she was to start the day, suffering a little bit from that 78 in the opening round. Again, bogey, bogey, rounds 1 and 2. She's been averaging 236 meters per drive. She's risking it, playing it aggressively, and it looks okay. Yeah, that's exceptional. Of course, that driving distance will be inflated a little bit by the fact that it is a downhill tee shot, but couldn't ask for much more than that. Depending on how the second shot goes, she might just be on for eagle after all. I think she'd take a par based on how it's gone. The birdie's on the cards, and based on the pattern, Pang Min-ji is due for a birdie here at 18. Not afraid to reach for driver again. Is she second guessing that decision? She nearly got a fortuitous kick back to the fairway, but she finds the rough. for an even par round, a 72. Should be just outside of the top 10 and a share of 11th. It's a simple enough looking putt, and she makes it look as such. So 4 birdies in the final 6 holes, a triple bogey on the first. Otherwise, she would be level with Park Ji-young. It's a great back 9 from her. And that leaves us with just 2 groups remaining. Young digs into the sand. 117 meters is what is left. She needs to get significantly uphill as well. It's clean contact, but maybe a bit too clean. She could have used a slightly early contact point in the sand. She goes from the bunker to the rough behind the green. Shorter yardage can lure you into a false sense of security. Get you maybe a little bit overconfident. So 106 meters remaining. EJ nearly got through the rough. Uphill as well, so playing probably like a 54 degree, and she's offline and into the perimeter bunker. Well, the green is wide open for So-yeon Jung, only 72 meters to acquire, and she puts that within just a few feet. A birdie would take her into sole possession of 5th. It has been a very good back 9 for her. She is even, should just be 1 putt and a chance to go low for the 3rd time today. Again, Yoo-hae ran a 68, Im Hee-jung and Park Chae-eun 69s, Hong Jung-min a 70, which is much better than what she was able to assemble yesterday. One of our final breaks of the day, probably our final one as we near 5 p.m. local time. We'll come back to wrap up the final 2 groups, and then we'll get you the 3rd round highlights and the final leaderboard before we say goodbye to moving day. Down to the final two groups, and anything but uneventful here at 18, as you'd expect for a potentially championship deciding hole. Less than 24 hours from now, we will know who our champion is, barring some kind of marathon playoff, which we have seen this season already. It's looking increasingly likely like we're going to see some kind of a repeat champion in 2022. EG in 3 looks a little bit quick. Works out though. The back pin placement today helping her out there. Our leader ready to go. So she is attempting to lay up again. Playing it safe, 233. Let's get a good iron shot to that last stretch of fairway. Birdie would be great. Par would be just as serviceable, but she cannot escape the rough. Give herself a little bit more breathing room to the left side. Well, the rough can be not so kind, especially when you're at the back of the green and you have a back pin. I think she cannot be any shallower than a meter from the fringe. Oh, she plays that perfectly. Such a very, very tricky balance, and she navigates it about as well as she can. Patiently waiting her turn. Tells me that trying to reach into is an out of the question for her. Picking out her break point. Needs this to save par. Looks unlikely. And yes, it does just start to move a little too early. So she drops into the 6-way tie for 10th, assuming she connects on this one. It is her second round of 74 this week, same as she had done in round number 1. She finishes 2 over for the day, and unfortunately for Lee Ji-hyun 3. That is the highest total of anyone inside the top 25. Jiang will be the next to play. She still should be able to record her best round of the week. 72 even in round 1, 2 over yesterday. She started the day in 4th. 1 over or even. would keep her right where she started. She's 2 strokes clear of Yoo Ran, So-yeon Jung, Im Hee Jung, Park Chae-eun, and Hong Jung-min, and 2 back of Pang Min-ji and Lee So-young. She finishes the round with a vengeance. It was a nerve-wracking 18th, but she is able to find her birdie and does finish the day under par for the first time in this major championship. That keeps the gap at 2 on either side. So she'll be in the penultimate group again tomorrow, likely alongside Yoo Ran. And potentially with So-yeon Jung, depending on how this shot goes. This is a deceptively difficult shot, despite it being short yardage. A little tap. Oh. Catches the inside, but does not drop. She would have moved to 5th all by herself, but she'll have to settle for a par. Fitting for a day that ends with a 72. It is her second best round so far at Blackstone. And these are all of the shots. Second shots, that is. 42 birdies. 42 in regulation, excuse me, fairway. 17 birdies, 34 pars, 10 bogeys or higher. Interestingly, 1 on the right side, that is Pang Min-ji. 1 on the left side, and both identical remaining yardages. They've basically gone shot for shot and step for step with each other all week, so it's only fitting. 196 Lee So-young is indeed going to try and reach into. She has the hybrid. Put the pressure on Chung Yoon-ji, who is taking the cautious approach to 18. And right into the bunker. That is the razor-thin margin. She knew what risk she was taking when she did pull the hybrid out, and you wonder if Pang Min-ji second guesses it a little bit. No. She's committed to trying as well. Also a hybrid. The rough will slow her down, but will it obstruct the line? Yes. That is 2 tickets to the beach. All that delay, all that waiting, the anticipation, knowing they needed a perfect shot. And unfortunately, they go 0 for 2. I mentioned this yesterday, but it is worth repeating that we are on for potentially the highest score to ever win this tournament. A +3 from Shinjie in 2008. 73 in the final round was enough to win it. And just the 3rd playing of the event. Kim Ae-rim, the only player to defend her title in consecutive years, 2016 and 2017. Though the latter was only a 3-round event back in 2017. Kim Yo-ju, a 2-time winner, 2014 and 2020. Chanana won her 2nd title last year. Her first came back in 2012, also a 3-round event. Chun In-ji seems a little bit too far back. Kim Ae-rim is definitely off the pace, so really it is Im Hee Jung who needs a bit of a miracle. She is one name below So-Yeon Jung, also at +3. But with the exception of Yoo-Hae Ran, I would think that the champion will come from one of these three, who will almost certainly be the featured and final group again tomorrow. It's just 84 meters still to go. Needs to lift it up. Oh, and we are all three in the exact same bunker. Pang Min-ji and Chung Yoon-ji both played Titleist, so we'll have to differentiate by their specific marks. Points is the advantage for Yoo-Hae Ran in the points. 540 this season. Park Ji-young on 460. Pang Min-ji triple fours, 444. Kim Soo-ji 413. Jian-Sol 409. EA1 leads the rookies. Mata Som 341 points behind. That's an unbelievable spread. Coach Yu is third. Uni Na, of course, we know the situation with her. Seemingly eventually will be passed by Kwon So-yeon, with her not participating for the rest of the year. Pang Min-ji with a 186 million won advantage on Yoo-Hae Ran. Park Ji-young third, Im Hee-jung fourth, and Kim Soo-ji fifth in the money list. Supporters trying to stay cool despite it being into the evening now, still 29 degrees.
이동 잠시 멈춰 주세요. 굿 플레이 할 겁니다. 네, 알겠습니다.
So-Young misses her third. 31 meters to go. Under the hole as well. So that was good contact. The fringe will slow it up just enough. She has putted so well that that is almost an automatic par. I'd say that's the way forward out of that bunker, but they're far enough apart laterally that you can't try and replicate it. No bunker shot will be the same. Pang Min-ji is next. She needs to slow up in a hurry. The slope helps. So despite all of that, she does have a chance for a birdie after all. A little leap from the leader, just to make sure she knows exactly where the top of that flag is. Three unbelievable shots out of the sand. Should be able to order up a trio of pars at the very least. Lee So-young and Pang Min-ji will both have a chance for birdie. And all she wanted to do, I think, when she reached the tee at 18 was just escape with the par, knowing that unless there was an eagle, which almost impossible here on 18, she would at least have a share of the lead. And despite taking the more conservative approach, she still ended up side by side with her group mates. The only eagle at 18, of course, belongs to Lee So-mi. We saw that from the back of the green. this would force the issue. Be a good boost to the confidence if she could finally find a birdie for the first time since the very first hole. She is the furthest out of the three. We know how difficult of a late break there is here. Needs a fair amount of speed as she tries to go uphill. She underhits it. So her birdie comes at the first. She had bogeys at 9 and 13, otherwise all pars. Finishes the day with a 73. Same score as Chihan Sol, though Chihan Sol had double bogeyed this 18th. Remarkable to consider where she's come from round one. She shot a 73, was down in a tie for 12th. Round two yesterday, she was able to climb 9 spots into sole possession of 3rd, just surviving the course with a 72. And today, she exits as the leader. Just the 1 bogey on the round and 4 birdies, including that unbelievable stretch of 3 consecutive. It is a 69, a score only beat by Yuhei Ran today. So we know she'll have the lead, but now the last question is, will she be sharing it? She has not birdied 18 yet this week. If not for that double on 15, she'll be thinking what could have been. But despite that, she does have her opportunity. I don't know that she's giving herself enough room to the outside here. She's not. Plays that 2 direct to line, and she has to settle for another par. So after going out with a 34, she comes in with a 38. It's an even par round with plenty of ups and downs, and just as she was when they teed off some 5 hours and 40 minutes ago, Min-ji, 3/4 of the way through, 54 holes down, is in 2nd position. Before we say goodbye, we of course have to go through the highlights from this moving day Saturday, 4th major of the year, and this was the only birdie of the day. Came immediately. So few people today were able to birdie the first hole. That's what makes it all the more surprising. At that point, she was at 3 under. She was cruising off to a great start. And then on the second hole, Peng Min-ji, pitching wedge from 112 meters back of the pin, needing to be at the back right. And that is precisely where she went. Down the hill perfectly, nearly an eagle. That good of an approach. And that would kickstart a really strong run of 4 holes, including this at this point, 2nd birdie of the day. Just 1 hole removed from her last. At that point, she was comfortably ahead, also at 3 under par. And she wasn't done there, because at the 5th, there would be another. Not quite as dramatic as that uphill putt, but this one starts uphill and drops right back down, and it drops right down into the bottom of the hole. So 4 under, which is as high as she would get today, because there would be some speed bumps along the way. This was 8. Chun Yoon-ji bogeyed the first hole, then had 6 straight pars. Finally, at long last, she gets it close. Moving on to 13, fast forwarding to 13. She has had a hole-in-one so far this week already, and it shouldn't surprise you that she nearly had another. Just about 5 feet shy, and this is what would kickstart that round, or that run, excuse me, of birdies. This is the first, and what makes it even more beautifully symmetrical, synergetic, is the fact that she birdied the par 3. Next up, the par 4 14. 52-degree wedge, 91 meters out, and it's so clean, the contact on this shot. And then it would get that helpful little move to the right, sitting up nicely. She's able to cash in on that, and this is the symmetry I'm talking about. So she has the par 3, she has the par 4. Why not do it and get the whole complement on the par 5 from the rough? And watch this path all the way on line and stops up a meter away, less than that. She would tap in, of course, to secure that, but the same fortunes would not be had by Peng Min-ji. She goes before the trees into the water. She takes the penalty with the iron, gets up onto the green, needed that for a bogey, and she nearly had it. But it would miss to the outside, so she would have a double, and all of a sudden she was at 2 under. And this, of course, the most recent strokes from everybody, and it would be pars all around. He's so young, who had 15 of them today to go along with 2 bogeys and that birdie at the first. ENG, who would be nearly perfect after that first hole. She just hit the reset button and was on cruise control all the way into a 69. Peng Min-ji had a chance to make up for that bogey at 17, but she lets the short putt, that opportunity, pass her by. So instead of sharing the lead, she will once again start as joint runner-up when we take to the course tomorrow for the final round. This is how the leaderboard looks. Of course, we gave you the very detailed journey of the top 3. Pak Ji-young a 71. Yoo-hae Ran again. And something tells me we have to keep a very close eye on her tomorrow. We'll see a ton of her in the penultimate group. Good rounds to be had by Hong Jung-min, Im Jin-young, and Lee So-mi as well, especially exclamation mark on that eagle at the last. Tied for 20th is Yu-china, excuse me. Good round for her. Ko-chi, one of the rookies up there, No Seung-yi, Igi-pum, Kim So-yi. 70 for 2 under, and plus 10 is her good score. Song Gaon a plus 5 today, 77. Disappointing moving day round. That's going to do it for us on this Saturday. Lots of excitement across the course as the tournament officials make it a little bit easier, but also can lure you into that false sense of security. I'm sure it'll be just as challenging tomorrow for a championship decider. Nothing like a major Sunday. Am I right? Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I've been Adam Jenkins signing off on behalf of our SBS Golf and Spot crews, saying see you tomorrow. 1 hour earlier. Set your schedules. We'll see you at 1 p.m. local time when we crown a champion here at the Blackstone Icheon exclusive golf club, KB Financial Group Star Championship. Goodbye for now.